At first, it was just one or two. Then a whole family. Then another elder disappeared quietly. Now, something is happening across the United Kingdom. Jehovah's Witnesses, once loyal, once proud, once obedient, are walking away. And not just in silence. They're starting to speak out. In recent years, a quiet but powerful shift has begun to unfold inside Kingdom halls across the UK. Attendance has dropped. Congregations have merged. Some halls have even closed. And while the Watchtower tries to frame it as organizational adjustments, the reality is far more unsettling. Behind closed doors, many lifelong members are questioning teachings they once considered sacred. They're asking hard questions about doctrine, about control, about the governing body, and about truth. And perhaps most surprising of all, these are not rebellious people, not worldly rebels. They are former pioneers, elders, ministerial servants, mothers, fathers, even whole generations raised in the truth. "We didn't leave God," one former witness from Manchester said. "We left a system that was pretending to speak for him." So why now? Why the UK? In this video, we're going to uncover the real reasons behind the exodus, the doctrinal cracks, the cultural tension, the spiritual awakening, and why so many Jehovah's Witnesses across the United Kingdom are finally saying, enough. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to support this work. If you believe people deserve to know the truth, beyond fear, beyond control, then hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It takes just a second, but it helps this message reach thousands who are still searching for answers. The Watchtower rarely highlights negative trends, especially when it comes to membership. But a closer look at the numbers coming from the United Kingdom reveals something difficult to ignore. For the past decade, growth has stagnated, and in some areas, it has reversed. According to the official 2023 Service Year Report, the number of publishers in the UK is estimated at just over 137,000, barely higher than it was 10 years ago. Meanwhile, population growth and immigration have continued to rise, meaning that as a percentage of the population, the movement is shrinking. What's more concerning is what the numbers don't reveal. Many former members report that Kingdom halls have quietly merged or closed entirely, not just in rural areas, but in major cities like London, Birmingham, and Manchester. These closures are rarely explained in detail, but ex-members and insiders suggest the cause is simple. Fewer people are attending meetings. Fewer young people are getting baptized. And those who leave are rarely replaced. "We went from 3 elders to 1 in less than a year," said one former witness from Leeds. Nobody wanted to step up. People were burned out or waking up. This trend isn't isolated to the UK, but the cultural climate here has accelerated the shift. In a society where freedom of thought, critical thinking, and individual conscience are highly valued, the rigid authority structure of the Watchtower feels increasingly out of place. Younger generations, especially, are less willing to accept teachings without evidence, and less afraid to ask questions. While older members may stay out of habit or fear of losing family ties, many millennials and Gen Z members are quietly walking away, and not looking back. And it's not just about walking away. The rise of social media platforms like Reddit, YouTube, and TikTok has given former Jehovah's Witnesses a voice, and a global stage. Communities like our /ex-JW on Reddit, which has over 90,000 members, have become a refuge for those who left. There, people share their stories, doubts, and healing journeys, and those stories are now reaching younger witnesses inside the organization. As one ex-member put it, the Watchtower used to control the narrative. Not anymore. Now we have the internet, and the truth is spreading. For decades, Jehovah's Witnesses were known for their confidence in doctrine. They believed they had the truth, and were trained to defend it at the door, on the street, and even with their own family. But over time, that confidence began to crack. Former members in the UK describe a growing discomfort with teachings that didn't align with the Bible, or with common sense. Many say the breaking point came not from outside criticism, but from their own personal Bible study. "I read the Gospel of John without the Watchtower," said one former pioneer from Bristol, "and for the first time I saw Jesus, not the organization, as the way to salvation." One of the most questioned doctrines is the 144,000. The belief that only a literal number of anointed ones will go to heaven, while the rest must hope to live on earth. For many, it simply didn't sit right. Why would God create two classes of Christians? Why would the vast majority of faithful believers never see him face to face? I asked my elder about it, said a young man from Glasgow. He just said I had to trust the governing body. That was my red flag. Others cite confusion about the overlapping generation teaching, which many British witnesses quietly mock in private conversations but fear questioning out loud. British culture has always valued skepticism and honest debate. In classrooms and universities across the UK, students are taught to question everything, especially authority. But inside the Watchtower, questioning doctrine is labeled apostasy. That clash has led many younger witnesses to feel torn between their religious upbringing and their intellectual integrity. It became exhausting, said a former ministerial servant. I was pretending to believe things I didn't believe, just to keep peace at home. To make matters worse, the rigid control of information has backfired in the digital age. The governing body's warnings to avoid independent research and not trust apostate websites only made many more curious. What were they trying to hide? As it turns out, when members finally search for answers, they discover a long history of failed predictions, doctrinal changes, and controversial policies. Once that door is opened, even a crack, it rarely closes again. Once I learned the truth about the truth, said one former witness, I couldn't unlearn it. And I couldn't stay. For many Jehovah's Witnesses in the UK, leaving the organization isn't just a spiritual decision, it's a social death sentence. The doctrine of disfellowshipping, strictly enforced by local elders, requires that active members shun anyone who has been expelled, even if that person is a close family member. Former witnesses across the UK share heart-wrenching stories of being cut off by their own parents, siblings, children, and lifelong friends. The day I was disfellowshipped, said a woman from Liverpool, my mother stopped speaking to me. She passed away 2 years later, and we never spoke again. This policy of total shunning, known within the organization as loving discipline, is defended by the governing body as a way to protect the congregation and motivate repentance. But for those on the outside, it often leads to depression, anxiety, and isolation. British mental health professionals have noted the emotional toll on individuals who have left high-control groups like the Watchtower. One ex-member from Birmingham shared, I went from being surrounded by a community to sitting alone in a flat, wondering if I'd made a mistake. But deep down I knew. I had finally chosen truth over fear. In the UK, where values like family loyalty and emotional openness are deeply held, this enforced shunning has triggered outrage, even among non-witnesses. Several British documentaries and news segments have highlighted the human cost of Watchtower policies. In 2021, a Channel 5 documentary included testimonies from ex-witnesses who were banned from family weddings, ignored at funerals, and forbidden from seeing their own grandchildren. As one journalist put it, it's a religion that preaches love, but practices separation. The pain isn't just emotional. It's spiritual. Many ex-witnesses carry guilt, confusion, and a fear of divine punishment long after they leave. After years of being told that the organization is the only channel to God, leaving feels like abandoning him. But over time, many come to see the truth, that their relationship with God was being filtered through a man-made system. I didn't lose my faith, said a former elder from Sheffield. I lost my chains. The United Kingdom is not a land of blind obedience. From Parliament to the pub, open debate, satire, and skepticism are woven into the national identity. Generations have grown up with a deep-rooted respect for free speech, independent thinking, and democratic values. But inside the Watchtower, those same traits are labeled as dangerous. Questioning doctrine is apostasy. Independent thought is spiritual pride. For many British Jehovah's Witnesses, this tension became unbearable. We were taught to obey without questioning, said a former elder from London. But outside the Kingdom Hall, everything about our culture encouraged the opposite. This cultural clash has become especially sharp among younger generations. In schools and universities across the UK, students are taught to evaluate sources, challenge assumptions, and demand transparency, values that directly conflict with Watchtower's top-down model of authority. When young witnesses asked why birthdays were forbidden, or why only 144,000 go to heaven, or why Armageddon was always just around the corner. They were told to wait on Jehovah. But many didn't wait. They went online, read the Bible independently, or listened to former members, and once the questions started, they didn't stop. Ironically, the very structure that helped the Watchtower grow in the 20th century is now what's pushing many away. The insistence on uniformity, submission to the governing body, and total separation from the world feels increasingly out of sync with modern life in the UK. Employers, friends, and even romantic partners are labeled as dangerous associations. Holidays and birthdays, normal expressions of love in British culture, are forbidden. "I got tired of apologizing for being different," said a young ex-witness from Newcastle. "I just wanted to live a normal life." But perhaps the biggest cultural mismatch is transparency. In a country where government, media, and even the monarchy are scrutinized daily, the Watchtower's secrecy feels suspect. Decisions are made behind closed doors. Judicial committees operate without witnesses or recordings. Financial reports are vague. And when scandals surface, whether doctrinal, legal, or moral, the official response is silence. For many British witnesses, this lack of accountability was the final straw. "If you have nothing to hide," one ex-member said, "why are you so afraid of questions?" Behind every statistic is a soul, and across the United Kingdom, thousands of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are finally telling their stories. David, a former elder from Manchester, recalls the moment everything changed. "I was preparing a talk on loyalty to the governing body. But as I read Matthew 23, I realized Jesus was warning about religious leaders just like us, obsessed with rules, but lacking love. That night, I closed the Watchtower and opened the Bible." For him, it wasn't about rebellion, it was about rediscovering Jesus. Others, like Sarah from Bristol, speak of the emotional toll. "When I was disfellowshipped, I lost my family, my friends, my entire world. But for the first time, I found peace. I found Christ." These aren't isolated stories. They echo across Reddit threads, Facebook groups, and late-night phone calls between survivors. Some were elders who quietly stepped down. Others were young people who dared to ask a forbidden question. Many left alone, heartbroken, but resolute. And yet, in that pain, they found healing, in new communities, new faith, and a new understanding of God. "The Watchtower taught us to fear," said a young man from Birmingham. "But perfect love casts out fear. And once I tasted that love, I never went back." Leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses is not easy, especially in the United Kingdom, where community, tradition, and family ties run deep. Many who walk away do so with trembling hands and shattered hearts. They lose their social circle, their spiritual identity, and in many cases, their own families. But what they gain is something far greater: freedom, clarity, and for many, a deeper relationship with God, not based on fear, rules, or men in New York, but on grace, truth, and the living Christ. The exodus we see today isn't driven by hate. It's not rebellion. It's not apostasy. It's awakening. It's what happens when people begin to read the Bible for themselves, think critically, and realize that salvation is not found in an organization. It's found in a person. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." He never said, "Follow a publishing corporation." The governing body demands loyalty. Christ offers freedom. And once you see the difference, it's impossible to unsee. Across the UK, from London to Liverpool, from Glasgow to Brighton, more and more former witnesses are finding their voice. They're healing. They're speaking out. And they're extending a hand to others still trapped inside. It's not too late. You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to fake belief. You don't have to choose between God and truth, because real truth always leads you back to Him. If this video spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Comment below. Tell your story. And if you're ready to walk out of the darkness, know this: you are not alone. There is life after the Watchtower. There is freedom in Christ.